Welcome back to the Align podcast. I am your host, Anna Goff, and I'm here with my co-host, Molly Rubesh. Today, we are wrapping up this series of the doors that you can go through in a relationship. We've done door number 1, door number 2, and today we are opening door number 3. And door number 3 is a very sensitive and difficult door to walk through, but it's one that over half of all Americans walk through, and that's the door that looks like divorce, separation and divorce. And so we will be touching on those topics today. And Molly, do you want to dive into this very sensitive and difficult but real topic?
Yeah, it is so real. And the statistics show that 50% of first marriages end in divorce, and it's even higher for second marriages and then even higher for third, and as you can imagine. But the truth is, our community, our listeners, none of us want a divorce. None of us entered into that wishful wedding day, that day full of joy and love and excitement, walking into our life going, you know what, if this doesn't work out, we'll just get divorced. I remember vividly saying to my first husband, divorce isn't an option for us. Like, that's just not an option. And I felt like that was enough of a armor that was going to guide us, and so I was so sure that I would never get divorced. And so I really want us as a society and a community to go really easy on anybody that is at this stage of their life. And if anybody's listening to this, knowing that it's okay, you're not a failure. I think that we need to stop with the failed marriage messaging, because we didn't fail at it. We didn't get an F. We really tried. Really tried and went in with pure intentions and tried, and sometimes it doesn't work out, but it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that maybe that chapter of your life was meant to be that way for a certain reason. Hopefully you evolved from it, you had potentially beautiful children from it, and here you are at the next chapter of your life, looking down future that has 50 more years ahead of you, and you get to walk that journey now. So as we listen and as we talk through this next stage, it's really about making sure that you forgive yourself and, through the tears and through the sadness, that you're not beating yourself up about where you are in this journey and entering into that door.
Yeah. And when marriage started, people lived to be 30, right? Now, or not even teens, right? People also got married when they were so young. So the idea that you are going to be satisfied or okay with being with the same person for 50, 60, 70 years, that changes things a lot. It changes the idea of what a marriage commitment for a lifetime looks like. And, when you get married when you're in your 20s or 30s, hopefully in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, you are a different person. And we don't really know when we step into a marriage what we don't know. We don't know the questions to ask always. We don't know what the future will bring. We don't know if we will have children or not, if they will be healthy or not, if we will deal with aging parents or have financial windfalls or losses. Will there be addiction? Will there be death in the family? There are job changes, moves, all of the things that come after you say I do that we can't predict. We can prepare for it as much as possible. We can go through the modern marriage blueprint. We can have a prenup. We can talk about all the things, but until they become reality, we don't know how we are going to react in that situation, and we don't know how our partner is going to react. And it may be a good reaction, and it may be a very bad reaction, or things may take a turn, and you may find yourself in a situation that you can't tolerate anymore. Understanding that, like you said, you're not a failure, but life happens, and we as adults get to make a decision about whether we want to stay in door number 1, move through door number 2, or if we want to move on and end our marriage and look at what it means after that.
Yeah, and I love that you just said that. As adults, So many people have this like, what will people think of me? What will my parents say? What will the church say? I remember being so paralyzed by fear of taking off my ring. The symbolism of my ring allowed me to feel safe and announce to the world that I was married. And I loved that title. I wanted to be a wife. I wanted to be a married woman. I wanted to be a mom. And so I was so afraid of putting the for sale sign in the yard and taking off my ring and announcing to the church and the Catholic schools where my kids went that I was now going to be a single divorced woman. And I was in corporate America, and I was afraid to tell my boss. And what is everybody going to think of me? And what does that mean? And is there going to be judgment? So there is a lot of fear. But to your point, we can be adults. You get one life, one big, beautiful life, and we are spending it in situations, in marriages, in friendships, in relationships, or in jobs that are like suffocating us and literally sucking the life out of us because we don't know that we're also allowed to make a decision and say, you know what, this is what's best for me. It's not what maybe my mom wants or what the priest would want or what even my husband wants, but it is what's best for me. And if you do that, then your kids will see a very healthy and empowered mother that is able to step into something super scary, very overwhelming, but still like walking a path of intention and integrity.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're the one that looks at yourself in the mirror every day. You're the one that has to be okay with your decision when your parents die, when your kids go off to college or get married on their own. You are the one that sets the groundwork for what their relationships will look like, what they will tolerate, what they won't, what kind of marriage they want, what their expectations are for how they're treated inside of the marriage. And so I think for a lot of us, we get to the point in our marriage where we're almost not leaving for ourselves, we're leaving for our kids, where we say, I can't stay because then I'll be sending a message that I tolerate XYZ behavior or that this is okay. And there's a lot of power in knowing that you are making a decision that is not only right for you, but for your kids. And as hard as it is to move through that, and sometimes kids don't understand at first and they feel very hurt and, kind of betrayed by their childhood in some way. But on the other side of that, if you can teach them resilience and how to have those correct expectations for a relationship, and also that you can pivot in life and that's okay. The decision you made when you were 26 to marry their father and have children wasn't the wrong decision. It was a decision that you made with all of the information that you had at that time. And throughout that, the decision to leave also isn't the wrong decision. And it doesn't mean that the time together was all bad. You don't have to chalk it up to, oh, I married this jerk. You can say, I married this person. We went through this beautiful chapter together. This no longer serves us or me, and now we need to move forward in a different way. And I think shifting the mindset from failure to success, almost to saying like, I want my life to be successful. I want my kids' lives to be successful. I want my relationship that is the closest to me, that I am building this partnership in this life together with this person. I want that to be healthy. And if it's no longer serving you and it's not healthy for both parties, the best thing to do is leave for both of you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So well said. And I feel like anybody that's listening is going to say, oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear, because we go to our friends and our family, or maybe in many cases keep it secret. I mean, I didn't tell a soul what was going on until I started seeping out, that things were rocky, because I just didn't want the judgment. I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do until I was ready to make that decision on my own. I felt like I can fix this. I can fix all things in my life. I'm an achiever. I can get the career. I can take care of the kids. I could also fix this. And saying it out loud was really overwhelming and scary. And so giving people permission to know that that you didn't mess up. You know, we don't have to be so mad at that young woman who got married that first time, because you're right. Was the best choice for us at the time. And it's okay to be at a point where this is no longer serving us. So I love to give the advice of, if you're deciding that this is where you want to go, your friends and your family cannot be your only support system. Mm-hmm. Way too biased. They are going to jump in and be mama bear. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to make your soon-to-be ex the villain. You're the victim. They can't be unbiased. You need them. You need that kind of energy sometimes around you, but you have to hire your team and the unbiased support of a therapist or a coach is so necessary. Yeah. A financial support team who is going to help you look at your finances and decide. And then thirdly, a lawyer that can help you with the legal laws of your state, because every state is different.
Absolutely. And a lot of times your family is grieving with you, or I should say parallel grief, right? Not necessarily with you, because they are grieving the Christmas morning that you made so special, that they were a part of. They're grieving their relationship with their son-in-law. They're grieving the closeness that you all had together. Maybe trips that you used to take. Maybe they're grieving, maybe your partner helped support, or you and your partner helped support them financially. And so that could be an issue. There are all of these grief entanglements. My grandma actually wrote a book called Grief Entanglements. So it's grief entanglements that happen when you're going through a divorce, similar to a death. But with a divorce, people often don't talk about how they're feeling about being affected by it. And so giving your family grace to go through it and grieve on their own time in their own way, you need to be separate from that. You need to be separate from their grief, because they will be grieving too. And the other thing that you and I talk about a lot is as opposed to a death, the expectation for explanation constantly, where you go to your friend and you say, I'm leaving my husband. And they say, well, why? What happened? Was it really that bad? Oh, well, my husband drinks, or my husband is way worse than yours. At least you didn't have to work, or at least you're financially stable, or how much are you going to have? Are you going to have to go back to work? Like all of these questions that you've already gone through in your head a million times, you aren't sure, they're uneasy questions for you. And now all of a sudden you have to explain why it's bad enough. You have to tell all the details, which you don't have to do any of this, but this is the expectation. And then they decide that they want to go and tell all of the other friends all about it, or they go home and tell their husbands. Well, then their husbands think divorce is contagious. And so then they don't want you to be around them because they made this decision, and holy cow, it's a mirror of my relationship. And so then they think, well, if Joe down there is getting divorced, I do the same things. Like, she's going to talk to her and she's going to leave me next. So there are lots of different things that happen within that time period of like the separation and divorce, where it's not just about you, it's about all the people in your life who are also grieving, also scared, also have a mirror of like, oh crap, my marriage sucks. Like, what am I going to do? So I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't anticipate in going through that, which is why it's great to have a coach who can give them a heads up, like, this could happen.
Yeah. And you and I are both unbiased support. So we can say, okay, like that seems a little extreme, or, help them figure out what makes sense from a financial perspective or a custody perspective. Help them approach things really balanced. Neither one of us come from this energy of like, take him to the cleaners, take everything that he's worth. That's not the energetic. It's like you two chose to get married. You two chose to have children together. Now, how can you, in a fair and balanced way, also separate the marriage that actually supports both parties? And so we will provide unbiased guidance, and we're not emotional. Like, I don't even know the players. Right. I don't know the participants. I'm not going to have a say-so on what their daughter is going to think. And so here, mentioning daughters takes me to the biggest fear, and I think probably in my situation and in yours and every woman that we coach, is, are my kids going to be okay? And so if I asked you, are your kids okay? What would you say?
Yeah, they are. I can remember when my ex and I told my son that, well, we told both kids, but we told my son that we were getting divorced. And he ran and hid in his closet and said, I only had 9 years of a good childhood. I mean,
Oh,
ripped my
oh.
heart out like daggers. Like we hugged each other and we're crying and we were like, are we really doing this to our children? You know, and my daughter was a little more stoic. She was older and she was like, um, does this mean forever? You know, and we were like, we don't know. And so when you're in that, you think, oh my gosh, this is going to be horrible, right? But it's really how you choose to show up and how you choose to communicate about your partner to your kids. They get used to having two houses. They get used to going back and forth. They don't always like it, but you know, asking them to share their feelings and just being transparent in a way that is age appropriate and emotionally appropriate without throwing the other person under the bus. I think they need to just feel the security, right? So their world got rocked and they don't know what this looks like. And mom was normally with me all the time and now I'm going to be at dad's half the time. But the thing that I have seen with my kids is, you know, my daughter does her own laundry at her dad's house. She still lets me do laundry at my
Oh,
house.
that's so
I
nice.
know, it's so sweet. She will do it. But she's cooking more, picking up. She is taking more responsibility. My son has two different sets of friends that he plays with when he's at each house. You know, he looks forward to certain things at each home. And I have told them, you know, as long as I don't have anything planned, you are welcome to do something with your dad. And so I think having that relationship where they know that, you know, you don't have to pick one. You don't have to, you know, feel icky about this. And we are navigating it together. And the thing that I told my kids when we went through this was, you know, this is my first time doing life too. And I'm not going to get it all right, but I'm going to try and I love you. And we need to just talk about this, you know, and we're going to work through it and it's going to be okay. And I think reminding yourself that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to do it perfectly. And resilience is one of the best things you can teach your kids because one thing's for sure, life is not linear. There's no straight line that you just go down.
Yeah.
And so the faster your kids, I mean, divorce is unfortunate, but the faster they can start to learn how to adapt to difficult situations, learn how to work in an environment that may not be perfect. That is life. And it's actually, you know, a life skill that they're learning through an unfortunate situation.
Yeah. I would say the same too. You know, my kids were 9 and 7 at the time, and my daughter said to me, "Does this mean I'll have 2 lunch boxes?" You know,
Aw.
and she just needed to understand what this meant for her and her life, and you know, is she gonna need 2 beds and 2 lunch boxes? And okay, and then she goes and you know, don't tell my friends. I said, okay, you get to tell your friends on your own timeline. And so they are worried about little things. And obviously they evolve and it depends on what their ages are. But the most beneficial thing you can do is provide them security and stability. Even though my ex and I were pretty high stress at that time, I helped him and went and I took my daughter to pick out furniture for his house, and we picked out bedding and we set up her bedroom. I set up my son's bedroom. I helped him move into that space because I wanted to do that for them. You know, you can set up routines. My daughter was really worried about me being lonely and she was scared. And so we set up like a FaceTime call every night at 7:00. So then she knew, you know, so she wouldn't call me over and over and over again. She would just call me at that one time and to know that I was okay. So the answer, and we'll talk about this in future episodes of like, how do you actually tell the kids and how do you navigate these big topics in co-parenting? But for door number 3, when you're standing in the front of it going, can I do this? The answer is yes, you can. And I'm sure that you haven't gotten to that point. No woman that has ever contacted you or I has gotten to that point quickly. It comes with years of reassessing and wanting to stay and negotiating with themselves, negotiating with their partner, trying. And then when you finally decide that that is the best choice for you, believe it. You can step through that door. You can take this journey and navigate it. There's a ton of resources available to support you. But just build your little team and build the army of your support infrastructure, because it's temporary pain for long-term happiness versus, I would argue, some of the other doors staying in for like long-term pain to avoid having to do the hard thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, if any of you listening would like support on how to walk through one of these doors, how to make decisions, how to prepare for a divorce, how to prepare for the next chapter and the next steps. Molly and I both work with women all the time on going through those things. Feel free to reach out to us. We have our contact information in the show notes, and we would love to walk through this journey with you. It is not easy, but it's definitely easier with the right support system and the people that you need on your side. So thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that you will follow and tune in next time for the Align podcast.
Thank you.
Is that a good place to stop?